Nancy Hulkower speaks about Joan Vassos trying to hook up friends with a Golden Bachelorette man. The Golden Bachelorette viewers were thrilled to see a Golden Bachelor alum show up to Tahiti to give Joan some good advice. They were less than impressed when Jerry Turner showed up much earlier in the season to cast doubt on Joan's ability to find love with this group of men. However, Nancy's support resonated with viewers, and many likely also took notice of her wise words when she said, "Lonely is not a place that you stay. Lonely is a place that you walk through." Her presence had a big impact on Joan's outlook, and it was clear that she was keeping her friend's advice in mind when she went into fantasy suites. That's a good thing, because the way Joan keeps bringing up her late husband John, it's evident that loneliness is somewhere she's been parked for quite some time, and now she really needs to shuffle her way out. And it looks like Nancy won't be lonely anymore either. That's if Joan has anything to do with it. Nancy Hulkower opens up about Joan's matchmaking attempts. Joan Vassos already admitted that she's trying to hook some of her exes up with women she befriended on The Golden Bachelor, but she didn't tell us who. Speculation about who may have been hooked up heated up when Leslie Fema shared a photo of herself with Jordan Heller, but we still don't know if that was Joan's doing. Now Nancy is opening up about Joan's efforts to find love for as many of her senior friends as she can during an appearance on Bachelor Happy Hour with Joe Amabel and Serena Pitt. Nancy was asked if she was one of these women or if she has heard who it might be in regard to Joan's matchmaking. It's clear that Nancy was choosing her words very carefully when she shared they all have asked Joan if there was anyone from her season that they might like, but specifically mentioned Susan, Kathy, and Christina among those interested. We all hope that at some point, maybe women who haven't met anybody and the men from Joan's season will get to have a little reunion party or whatever so that we can meet them, Nancy explained. That sounds like Golden Bachelor in Paradise to us. Could it be happening? She did say that she doesn't think Joan has set up any solid couples at this point, but Joan said herself that one of the couples she set up is talking. Leslie Fema confirmed Jordan Heller hangout. As if her picture wasn't confirmation enough, Leslie Fema opened up about meeting Jordan Heller in person. The Golden Bachelor and Bachelorette alums met each other at a soccer game where Jordan had a box and invited a few people. While Leslie made it clear that the sporting event wasn't technically a date, as other people were there, she did gush about how handsome Joan's ex is and teased that we could see them together again in the future. In the bustling cafe where the aroma of fresh coffee mingled with the laughter of patrons, Nancy Hulkower leaned back in her chair, her eyes sparkling with mischief. She was on the cusp of recounting a tale that had all the elements of a romantic comedy, complete with quirky characters and unexpected plot twists. At the center of this tale was her dear friend, Joan Vassos, a woman with a heart as big as her ambitions and a penchant for matchmaking that could rival the best of Hollywood screenwriters. "Let me tell you about Joan's latest adventure," Nancy began, her voice animated. "You know how she's always been obsessed with love stories. Well, this time, she decided to turn her attention to the Golden Bachelorette, a charming man who seems to have stepped straight out of a fairy tale. Joan had recently learned about the Golden Bachelorette phenomenon, a reality show where eligible bachelors, often seasoned in life and love, vie for the attention of an extraordinary woman. The premise was simple yet captivating. Older, wiser, and perhaps a bit more jaded, these men were ready to find companionship. Joan, a self-proclaimed romantic, saw it as the perfect opportunity, not just for herself, but for her friends. "Nancy, it's time to get serious about love," Joan had declared, her eyes gleaming with determination. "I've got a plan to hook up some of our single friends with this Golden Bachelorette man." And so the wheels began to turn. Joan, ever the social butterfly, organized a gathering of her single friends, transforming her living room into a whimsical matchmaking haven. The walls were adorned with heart-shaped decorations, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of freshly baked cookies, each one, she insisted, baked with a sprinkle of love. "Can you imagine?" Nancy chuckled, shaking her head at the memory. Joan was convinced that the right man was just a couple of introductions away. She had her sights set on creating love connections, and nothing was going to stand in her way. Joan's enthusiasm was contagious, and soon enough, the living room was bustling with hopeful singles, each with their own stories and dreams. There was Amelia, a vivacious artist who wore her heart on her sleeve, and Greg, a witty accountant with a penchant for bad puns. They were soon joined by Linda, a yoga instructor with a zen attitude towards life, and Mark, a retired firefighter who had a smile that could light up the darkest of rooms. Joan took it upon herself to curate the perfect mix of personalities, Nancy recalled. She even printed out love connection cards, where each person could jot down their interests and what they were looking for in a partner. It was like speed dating, but with a homemade touch. As the evening unfolded, laughter echoed through the house, mingling with the clinking of glasses and the soft strumming of a guitar played by one of the guests. Joan, in her element, flitted from group to group, playing the role of both host and matchmaker. She was like a conductor, orchestrating the symphony of budding connections. Here's the twist, though, Nancy continued, leaning in conspiratorially. Just when it seemed like the perfect night, in walked the golden bachelorette man himself. Joan had somehow managed to secure a surprise appearance from him, a charming gentleman named Richard, who was as charismatic as he was handsome. The guests erupted into whispers and giggles, their eyes wide with excitement. Joan beamed with pride, her matchmaking dream unfolding before her very eyes. Richard was everything Joan had promised, Nancy said, her voice filled with awe. He was genuine, warm, and had an incredible sense of humor. You could tell he was just as eager to meet the people Joan had brought together. The energy in the room shifted as Richard mingled, exchanging stories and laughter with the guests. Nancy watched as Amelia and Greg hit it off, their shared interests sparking a lively conversation. Meanwhile, Linda and Mark discovered a mutual love for hiking, their excitement palpable as they planned future adventures. Joan's matchmaking magic was working, Nancy said, a smile playing on her lips. But it was more than just her efforts. It was the chemistry in the room, the electric connection that had ignited among friends and newcomers alike. As the night drew to a close, the guests exchanged contact information, hopeful for what was to come. Richard, with a twinkle in his eye, thanked Joan for the delightful evening, promising to keep in touch. Here's where it gets really interesting, Nancy said, her voice taking on a conspiratorial tone. In the days that followed, something incredible happened. Joan started receiving messages from friends, all recounting their own mini-love stories that had blossomed from that night. Amelia and Greg had gone on their first date, a hike that turned into a picnic beneath the stars. Linda and Mark shared tales of their adventures, and Richard, it seemed, had taken a liking to the company of Joan herself. Joan was on cloud nine, Nancy laughed. She'd never been more motivated in her life. She started planning follow-up events, game nights, wine tastings, and even a karaoke night, all designed to keep the love connections alive. As Nancy wrapped up her story, she couldn't help but marvel at the ripple effects of Joan's ambition. What had begun as a simple gathering had transformed into a series of relationships, each one blooming with possibility. Love is like that, isn't it? Nancy mused. It takes one spark, one determined heart to bring people together. And Joan? Well, she's not just a matchmaker. She's a love architect, building bridges between hearts. With a final sip of her coffee, Nancy smiled, knowing that Joan's quest was far from over. In her hands lay the potential for countless more connections, each one a testament to the magic that happens when friends come together, fueled by hope, laughter, and a little bit of whimsy.